National Weather Desk. Deadly flooding in New York City. Record rainfall fills subway stations, leaves at least 2 people dead, floods cars, and forces people to walk in deep water. After Melissa, Jamaica starts the long cleanup after the massive hurricane destroys homes, schools, and lives across the island. Falling back, daylight saving time ends this weekend, and it could impact your health.
It's actually doing quite a lot to our circadian clock.
We'll look back at the historic Halloween flood in Texas 10 years ago.
There was a raging torrent that took lives and destroyed homes.
And what would Friday be without your weekend football forecast?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Record rainfall in New York City on Thursday flooded streets, subway stations, and homes. At least 2 people died after their basements filled with water. A man in Brooklyn was trying to save his dog when the water rushed in. The other man reportedly lived in a small room in a Manhattan basement. Across the city, the heavy rain and strong winds brought large trees down on cars and homes. Crews rushed to clear storm drains so water could flow off the flooded roads. That's the sound of water rushing into the city's subway stations. Up at street level, people walked through knee-high water just across the street. The water also stranded many cars across the city. Take a look at these record-breaking numbers. The National Weather Service reported 1.85 inches of rain in Central Park, breaking the previous daily record set back in 1917. More than 2 inches fell at LaGuardia Airport, nearly double the old record set in 1955. The 2 inches of rainfall that fell at Newark Liberty Airport in New Jersey also broke the all-time record for October 30th. In Connecticut, 2 large barges ran ashore during the storm. The Coast Guard says the 140-foot barges broke free from their mooring and drifted 5 miles to this beach. Both are reportedly empty. No one was injured. The owner is said to be working to have them recovered and refloated. And now to the latest on Hurricane Melissa. It passed by Bermuda overnight and is heading into the northern Atlantic. It will weaken later today and tomorrow morning. Jamaica, however, is still assessing damage from the storm. At least 19 people died here, but that number is expected to rise in the coming days. It's clear the nation has a long road to recovery as the damage is extensive and widespread. Schools like this one will need to be rebuilt, and nearly 3/4 of the island is still without power. These nighttime satellite images show you lights before and after Melissa struck. Our storm chaser with Live Storms Media has been in the Montego Bay area this week. He was able to leave his hotel yesterday and show us what the community there looks like. As you can see, buildings suffered extreme damage. Countless trees block roads. And this long line isn't traffic. They're waiting for fuel. Meantime, several units from the United States are now in Jamaica to help search for survivors. That includes Virginia's Task Force One.
It certainly is very challenging, and these communities have been devastatingly impacted. So our team has been around the world and around the United States for any number of disasters. So we do have training on this, and there is a mental health aspect to that as well. And the fire department is very proactive with providing those mental health resources if anybody does have any challenges.
And the situation is bad in Cuba, too. The United Nations says 2 million people there are in urgent need of food, shelter, and water. Patrick Ottman says crop damage will make the situation even worse.
So we've just come across this scene as we're leaving Santiago de Cuba, and it goes on for a long, long way. All these banana plants that have been completely knocked down, destroyed. You can see the force Melissa's winds came through here with. And the issue for Cuba, even though this storm didn't hit as hard as Jamaica, is it's done a tremendous amount of damage, and Cuba doesn't produce enough food as is. So when you have a whole crop like this that's lost, that is going to have a big impact. Cuba can't afford to import food, and so, you know, it just is going to be less food that's available for people, food that they're counting on producing, and is now lost.
And 10 years ago this week, catastrophic flooding slammed Austin, Texas. 3 people died in the 2015 Halloween flood. About 400 homes in southeast Austin were damaged or destroyed. Betty Cross takes a look back and also found out what has been done since then to make Austin neighborhoods safer.
Onion Creek has a history of making dramatic transformations. In minutes, it can go from calm and peaceful to violent and destructive. On October 30th, 2015, 14 inches of rain fell in southeast Austin. Onion Creek climbed to 39 feet, which is 22 feet above flood stage.
I got hit by a wave, and when the wave hit me, my vehicle got pushed towards higher water.
Travis County Deputy George Morales says he jumped out of his car and had no choice but to start swimming. Today he shared memories with his former partner, Constable Gabe Padilla, who rushed to help him.
He's refusing the orders of stay away from the area, and he tries, and he gets swept in. The good thing about it, we both made it out safe.
City leaders honored the 3 people who died in the historic flooding and the first responders who risked their lives to save others.
Flooding remains one of the most pressing challenges in Austin.
Mayor Pro Tem Vanessa Fuentes says more work needs to be done to make neighborhoods safer. But on the 10th anniversary of the Halloween flood, she outlined what the city of Austin has done to prevent a repeat of this destruction.
We've upgraded early warning systems. We've installed new flood detection cameras. We've improved drainage infrastructures, and we've hosted our city's first ever Flood Safety Fest.
Austin sits in the middle of Flash Flood Alley, which stretches across central Texas from Dallas to San Antonio.
We need to continue investing and improving our drainage infrastructure. That is a huge area of need.
Fuentes says city staff has identified over $1 billion of capital improvement projects that are needed to make Austin more flood resilient.
And 14 years ago this week, Mother Nature dumped a load of early season snow across parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Meteorologist Ryan Munn takes a look back at the impacts in Maine.
The famous late October snowstorm of 2011, commonly referred to as Snowtober, dropped double-digit totals in many areas. Acton topped the list in Maine of 20 inches, Bridgeton nearly 17.5, Oxford, Gray, and Turner saw around or more than a foot of snow. The highest total was found in the town of Peru, Massachusetts, of 32 inches. This was a look at some of the footage from the storm. You can see the snow was piling up on the sidewalks and the streets. The plows were out in full force as well. Early season snowstorms often bring with them a wet and sticky snow. When you factor in that along with the gusty winds and the fact that many leaves were still on the trees, that caused a lot of trees and branches to fall, which played a major role in the number of outages. In Maine, there were around 160,000 outages that occurred between October 29th and 30th. All across the Northeast, there was more than 3 million outages, with Connecticut alone seeing around 830,000. During this storm, Portland saw 5.2 inches. While that is not nearly the highest total in the state, it was the most snow Portland has ever seen in the month of October. Second place was 1969 when 3.8 inches fell. The good news is we'll have to wait until at least November to see our first flakes fly here in Portland.
And of course, it is Halloween, almost time to go out and trick or treat, but we know it'll be windy in the Northeast. Meteorologist Natalie Walters and a frightening friend have the forecast rundowns for some cities on the spooky list.
So my friend Annabelle has been hanging out in our studio for the past month or so, and she has encouraged me to give some spooky forecasts for some spooky cities across the United States. Well, in Sleepy Hollow, New York, expect temps in the 50s, mostly cloudy sky, slight chance for a shower. And as we head our way southward to Bath Cave, North Carolina, it's going to be a beautiful day, lots of sunshine and mid-50s. Very similar to Spook City, Colorado, where temps are going to be in the lower 40s with that sunshine as well. Things heat up as you head to Death Valley. Expect temps close to 80 degrees and, of course, lots of sunshine there, too. And in Salem, Massachusetts, lower 60s as well as showers take runoff during. And we'll end in Hell, Michigan, where temps are going to be in the mid-50s and a mostly cloudy sky. Annabelle and I hope you have a happy Halloween.
We did warn you about Annabelle. Now check out the dramatic skies over Seattle yesterday morning. As the sun comes up, you can see Mount Rainier in the distance, but it'll be a very different story today. Another atmospheric river-related storm arrives this afternoon, making for a very wet night trick-or-treating. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, the connection between sunlight and the color of fall leaves. And this is the weekend. We turn back the clocks. The impact the end of daylight saving time could have on your health.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. The heavy rainfall we had in the Northeast, particularly in New England overnight, that's starting to shift off to the north this morning. We're briefly getting into the 50s and low 60s. Look at the temps already in New York. They'll have a hard time getting out of the 40s and low 50s. That's about 11:30 this morning. The wind picks up out of the west-southwest late in the day, so be mindful of that if you're heading out and doing some trick-or-treating. Now on Saturday, we'll have mostly sunny skies, cool temps, and windy conditions.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Your Halloween afternoon looking pretty good. We'll be seeing a lot of sunshine going into the evening. As those temperatures fall, it will be rather windy continuing into this evening. So trick-or-treaters, beware with that. Lots of sunshine to go into your Saturday and even Sunday. Not going to see much rainfall anytime soon. Temperatures will be chillier throughout the evening as they drop into the 40s, but we'll be in the low 60s Saturday and Sunday for highs.
Good Friday morning, meteorologist Michael Arenborn checking out your Southeast regional forecast. Beautiful day out there with sunny skies throughout from the Atlantic coast out to the Mississippi River Valley and beyond and down to the Gulf Coast and through Florida. Maybe a few patchy clouds, that's it, but high pressure will dominate. So again, nice quiet day if you're traveling, no weather hassles at all. Forecast high temperatures will be in the 60s from about I-10 north, 64 for Atlanta, 62 in Nashville to the low to mid 70s across central and south Florida.
I'm Storm Track 5 meteorologist Teresa Carter at News 5 WCYB, covering the Tri-Cities, Tennessee, and Virginia, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
And daylight saving time comes to an end this weekend. We fall back 1 hour on Sunday morning, returning to standard time. Emily Gracie spoke to a sleep expert to find out how changing the clocks twice a year impacts our circadian rhythm.
In humans, our circadian system or our circadian clock is entrained primarily by light exposure specifically. And so we actually have cells in our eyes that directly connect. It's a direct neuronal connection from our eyes to our clock in our brain. And those cells are activated or controlled specifically by light exposure.
So let's talk about daylight saving and how we are changing our clocks twice a year at this point. What does that do? An hour doesn't seem like much. Like everybody says they feel it, some people less so, but what is that actually doing to our health to change the clock twice a year?
It's actually doing quite a lot to our circadian clock. And, you know, there's definitely some pretty strong evidence at the anecdotal level. People notice it. And especially like when you spring forward in the spring, so you lose that hour of sleep, nobody likes that. And everybody complains about it. It's like anecdotally, you can feel that you're missing that hour of sleep. And then when we look at sort of the population level, we know that during that spring forward time frame, during that week when that happens, after that time change, on the highways, there's more accidents and there's more severe accidents that result in people dying. There's a higher incidence of heart attack. And then on the flip side of it, we don't see that happen in the fall when we fall back and you get an extra hour of sleep. So there isn't an increase in accidents. There isn't these elevated risk of heart attacks during that week. And so that's really nice data that directionally shows that losing that hour of sleep is important.
Okay, so there is like a group of people, a lot of people, who would love to just shift to daylight saving time all year long. What is your opinion on that?
So I'm definitely of the opposite opinion, where probably the optimal would be, if we're going to adopt one time, it's going to be standard time, which is right now what is like what we are on during winter time.
And the start of November means winter isn't too far away, with talk turning to winter weather forecasts. Our station in Portland, Maine, meteorologist Charlie Lopresti's forecast is linked to past patterns of summer drought and lots of winter snow.
Looking back at history can be an effective way to forecast the winter. These 10 winter seasons are most similar to what we're seeing this year. The data shows an 80% chance of normal to above normal snowfall and 70% chance colder than normal December through February. The two winters that match up best with this season are last winter and 2013-14. There appears to be a connection between summer drought and lots of winter snow. There were historic droughts in 1968, 1995, and 2025. And those winters that followed, 69 and 96, yielded more than 100 inches of snow in Portland. They're both in the top 5 snowiest winters on record. 2017 was a recent drought summer. You might remember the 50 to 30 below New Year's morning 2018. And 4 days later,
I'm stuck. I can't get to work. So, like a whiteout. It's crazy.
just a month later, it was a comfortable walk to work as temps climbed to 70 degrees on February 21st. More evidence this winter may hold big temperature swings. A clue to those swings may be what's happening near the North Pole.
When the polar vortex is strong, the Arctic oscillation is positive. That means the coldest air in the northern hemisphere sits right up here, right over the North Pole. When the Arctic oscillation becomes negative, the jet stream becomes more wavy. The polar vortex can become weaker, it can stretch, and a piece can break off. This setup can introduce some major cold snaps to the United States, and we're seeing signs of that happening this year.
90% of winters analyzed had a negative Arctic oscillation in January or February.
This winter is expected to be around normal or slightly cooler than normal in the Northeast. Precipitation is expected to be above normal in the Northeast and back through the Great Lakes. How that translates to snow can be tricky given we're often dealing with snow, mix, and rain events. Maine, New Hampshire, and the Northeast has a good chance of being above normal in snowfall this upcoming winter season.
Now, before the snow falls, most leaves will fall off trees. Georgia meteorologist Noah Hawk compares leafy changes in the north and south and says the difference is in the sunlight.
We're well over a month into fall by now, and some might be noticing those leaves have changed colors. For some, might not have changed a whole lot, and for others, you might already be past that peak. So where do you fall across America? Well, down towards the south, we're not going to see a whole lot of color change at the moment, but as you head more towards the north, you're going to notice a lot more of those leaves are changing their colors. And even if you're all the way up towards North Dakota or Montana, you're already past your peak. But what causes leaves to change colors, and why is there such a big difference between the north and the south? Well, it's all going to come down to sunlight. Now, since we're in fall, it's more of a transition period, and that sun is going to be more starting to focus on our southern hemisphere. So down in the south, they're getting a little bit more daylight, so that means their leaves are going to stay green a little bit longer. But why is that? Well, the sun is going to elicit a production of chlorophyll. That's a chemical compound found in leaves that gives them their green color. But what about those other colors? How do those come about? Well, as that sun begins to dwindle and we don't see nearly as much daylight, we're going to see some other chemical compounds become more dominant. So in terms of those yellows, you're going to see that xanthophyll. In terms of our orange leaves, you're going to see more of that carotene. And then my personal favorite, those red leaves, you're going to be seeing more of that anthocyanin. But as we get closer and closer to winter, eventually all these processes are going to slow down or come to a halt, and those leaves will eventually turn brown and shrivel up.
And after tonight's trick-or-treating, you might start taking down your Halloween decorations. But have you thought about what to do with your leftover pumpkins, other than tossing them in the trash? Meteorologist Grayson Freund tells us about a range of eco-friendly options to give them a green goodbye.
After carving, make the most of the leftover insides by turning them into tasty treats to help reduce food waste.
Pumpkin pie, roasted pumpkin seeds. There are a lot of very popular recipes out there that we could utilize this as food before we look at disposal options.
Instead of throwing away any fresh, undecorated pumpkins, you can toss them into your yard to provide a seasonal snack for local wildlife. But if your pumpkins or gourds are past their prime, composting is a great option.
So anyone that has a tumble composter or just an area set aside where they compost leaves, garden trimmings, other types of organic material, pumpkins are a great addition to that mix.
If you don't have at-home composting, some cities have curbside composting programs.
We really try to approach pumpkins and other organic material, whether it be varieties of yard waste or food waste, as resources. And we don't want to put quality, usable resources into the landfill.
And time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over a spooky sight we spotted several years ago on Virginia's Rappahannock River.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Have a few showers up here across the northern part of the Midwest and the northern plains as we continue on into the day tomorrow. A couple of very light spotty showers, but a lot of the Midwest just kind of cloudy and chilly with 40s and 50s all across the Midwest. As we continue into your Sunday, the sun starts to come out a little bit across the southern plains and warming up a little bit.
Well, a good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today here on this Halloween. Well, the afternoon, nothing scary about this forecast. Sunshine, 60s and 70s, cools nicely as the sun goes down for the trick-or-treaters. And then on Saturday, just a real weak system that'll be passing across Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas with some clouds, maybe a couple of showers, maybe a thunderstorm as well. And see those high temperatures, 50s, 60s, and 70s across the region.
I'm George Waldenberger with your forecast for the western United States. So many areas from the Four Corners up toward Idaho looking quiet into Halloween. A little cool in Jackson at 49 degrees in Montana. We'll get a little gusty into the weekend, but the Santa Ana winds, Southern California settling down. The exception, it does get wet. Atmospheric river events setting up for the Pacific Northwest. A little windy for Seattle into the weekend. That's the scene from out here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It's fall, it's Friday. That means we're gearing up for a big weekend of football. Meteorologist Katie Morgan has the weather for some of the biggest games.
Another weekend upon us, and let's take a look at some of our football matchups of the week. And we're going to start in the Buckeye State. We've got Ohio State at home taking on Penn State. Kickoff right around 12 noon. 50 degrees with partly cloudy skies. To Austin, Texas. Vanderbilt in town taking on Texas. Temperature around 72, near perfect conditions. And then Cincinnati at Utah. This will be the evening game. Temperatures around 54 and dropping. It'll become chilly throughout the evening hours. And we're in the Northeast as we head into Sunday. How about the Colts at the Steelers? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We'll see a chance for showers with a 1 p.m. kickoff. The evening game, Seattle Seahawks in town against the Commanders. That's going to be in D.C. with temperatures around 50 at kickoff and then dropping. And then the Chiefs at the Bills. This will be a good one. A lot of sunshine with a chance for some showers. We'll see temperatures in the mid-50s. Hope you're having a great start to your Friday. I'm meteorologist Katie Morgan.
And thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Make it a great Friday. Have a happy and safe Halloween and a wonderful weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday for the National Weather Desk.